Welcome to the Fogwood Files, where fog lingers among the trees and the forest holds its secrets close. The Canadian Maritimes are a land of silence and shadow, where pasts dissolve into mist and voices echo without a source. Here, beneath the canopy of pines, people have witnessed things they cannot explain. Their words remain as fragments of a larger mystery, stories carried through the woods like whispers in the dark. Tonight, we open one of those accounts and step deeper into the ledger of the strange.
Case file, Halloween. The Samhain Children of Black Hallow. Date of encounter, October 1975. Location, Black Hallow, Nova Scotia. Date of report, October 2024.
I write this not for fame or for disbelief to be quelled. I write it because I must. Because forgetting it is impossible, and speaking the truth is all that remains. Black Hallow has a way of hurting those who do not obey it, and I have been a recipient, a witness to a ritual older than any record. If you are reading this, understand, I am not a liar. I am not a madman. I am someone who once believed he could navigate a peaceful life in a small town, only to discover that some traditions demand obedience beyond reason, beyond choice, beyond life itself. This file is my confession. It is my testimony. And it is a warning. No kindness, no innocence, and no love is strong enough to shield a child from the consequences of ignoring the rules of Black Hallow. After years of cramped city life, I wanted my son to grow up somewhere that felt like it belonged to him as much as it belonged to anyone. Black Hallow was perfect, or so I thought. Nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the town is small, almost intimate, with a single sprawling communal farm that supports every household. The people are tight-knit and self-sufficient, their lives synchronized with the seasons and the land. At first, Black Hallow seemed idyllic. The air smelled of soil and wood smoke, mornings were full of bird song and mist, and my son ran through the fields as if he were born to them. He had a freedom that I could have never offered him in the city. I watched him climb apple trees, chase the stray dogs that roam the farms, and return home covered in grass, stains, and freckles. I did not know that Black Hallow's quiet was not simply the absence of noise, but a prelude to something far older and darker. It was 3 weeks before Halloween when Mrs. Calloway invited me into her home. Her house smelled of dried herbs and old wood, the walls lined with photographs and documents that seemed to belong to centuries past. She was small, hunched with age, but her presence was commanding. "You've come to Black Hallow to raise your boy," she said, her voice low but deliberate. "Good, but you must understand. The town keeps certain old ways. Ways that are older than any of the buildings, older than the farm itself. Ways that protect us and punish those who forget them." I listened politely, though inwardly I was skeptical. Then she leaned closer, eyes glinting. "Every Halloween, the Samhain children walk. They are not living children, but spirits of the town's past. They appear in costumes, always polite, always silent. They accept offerings from every home, baskets of bread, oats, and dried fruit. These must be placed on the front step before sundown. Not on the porch, not by the mailbox, not at the driveway's end. The front step. Always." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Some families say it's superstition. Others know better. Give them what they want, in the way they want it. Or they may take a child. One child from your home forever. I frowned, thinking this was nonsense. She didn't flinch. They are patient, but they do not forget. They do not forgive. And it is not enough to be generous or to place your basket nearby. They know the difference between tradition and convenience. And once they choose a child, nothing, not tears, not pleas, not bargains, can undo it. The child walks with them for all eternity. Sometimes you see them once a year, just a glimpse. If you are fortunate enough, but that is all, nothing else. The offerings are simple: bread, oats, dried fruit. Anything else, anything modern, anything from your world now, it is a poison to the ritual. Candy, chocolate, packaged sweets, that is not theirs. If you try to give them modern treats, you risk everything. Her gaze softened for a fraction of a second. I'm telling you this not to frighten you, but because your son deserves protection. You may never see him again if you ignore these words. The week before Halloween passed in a blur of excitement and domestic chaos. My son could barely sit still, bounding from room to room with an energy I had almost forgotten children could possess. Every morning he pestered me about this costume. "Daddy, you said you'd make it. My mechanic outfit needs a wrench belt, and don't forget the boots." His eyes sparkled with anticipation, innocence, and unrelenting. I tried to resist at first, reminding him of store-bought options, of saving time, of letting tradition be enough. But one look at his tiny, eager face, the hopeful tilt of his head, and I relented. We spent afternoons cutting, sewing, and arranging the miniature jumpsuit, measuring and adjusting until the tiny boots fit perfectly and the wrench belt looped snugly at his waist. In those moments, the warnings Mrs. Calloway had given me faded to background noise, buried beneath the joy and laughter in the house. I hung paper ghosts and carved pumpkins in the windows, draped garlands of orange and black along the staircase, and filled the living room with autumnal scents of cinnamon, apple, and nutmeg. I wanted the house to feel like Halloween should, warm, safe, and familiar. Yet, in the quiet moments, I remembered Mrs. Calloway's words about the Samhain children, about obedience and offerings. I shook my head and laughed at myself for being cautious. Old superstition, I told myself. This is a quiet town, not some ghost story. On the morning of the 30th, I ventured into the small market at the edge of town. I purchased bread, oats, and dried fruit, the proper traditional offerings Mrs. Calloway had instructed. But then near the checkout, I noticed the aisle lined with modern Halloween candy, chocolate bars, wrapped gummies, sour candies in neon wrappers. My son had begged for them, his small hands reaching for a pack, eyes wide. He pleaded, "Daddy, please, everyone will have candy." I hesitated, recalling Mrs. Calloway's warning about modern treats and the ritual's inflexibility. Then I shrugged and laughed, picking up a few chocolate bars and gummy packs. "It's just candy," I told myself. "Superstitions are for people with too much imagination." As I approached the register, I noticed the townspeople watching. A few of the older residents, those who knew the traditions well, glanced at me knowingly. Their eyes were clouded with a mixture of sadness and disapproval. Not a word was spoken. Their faces were grave, silent. I felt a shiver but dismissed it. They're just old folks clinging to old stories, I thought, chuckling nervously as I paid for my purchases. But By the time I returned home, the sun had begun its slow descent. My son tore into the candy with uncontainable glee, scattering wrappers on the kitchen floor as I set the bread, oats, and dried fruit aside. The house smelled of autumn and sugar, a perfect blend of old and new traditions. I smiled, certain I had satisfied both the ritual and my child's happiness, blissfully unaware of the catastrophe I had just set in motion. The day before Halloween had been full of preparation, laughter, and the illusion of control. And yet, as I laid out the offerings that evening, a small unease gnawed at the edge of my mind. An intuition I had shrugged off, believing my love and modern sensibility could bend the rules. I had ignored the warning. I had laughed at the town's quiet judgment, and in doing so, I set the stage for the night that would change everything. Halloween arrived with the sharp bite of autumn air and a pale, waning sun. My boy had been buzzing with excitement all day, darting in and out of the house in his miniature mechanic's uniform, adjusting his toy wrench and pretending to fix everything in sight. I had spent hours preparing for what I thought was the perfect offering. A basket of bread, oats, and dried fruit, carefully arranged. But in the corner of my mind, I kept hearing Mrs. Calloway's words about modern treats and rules not to be broken. And yet, I faltered. There, alongside the traditional basket, I placed a small pile of chocolate bars, gummy bears, and neon-wrapped candies, bright, sugary, and completely foreign to the ritual. I told myself my son deserved this, that perhaps the Samhain children would accept a small concession. I did not yet understand that in Black Hallow, even the smallest deviation could have catastrophic consequences. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I watched from the window, pretending I was admiring the evening light. My son laughed, spinning in circles, wrench belt jingling. I could hear the faint rustle of leaves, the distant call of crows, and the wind whispering through the trees. I did not notice the first stirrings of shadows, small, delicate footfalls that made no sound on the frost-stiffened grass. They moved like smoke, ethereal and deliberate, circling the yard with grace that was beyond mesmerizing and terrifying. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light. Then, I saw them. They came silently, 100 small shapes drifting from the tree line, moving with an unnatural gliding cadence that defied gravity. Each figure wore a costume, some whimsical, some eerie, all impossibly lifelike. Pumpkin-headed scarecrows, sheets draped over tiny bodies, ragged farmers, outfits from forgotten decades. All were perfect replicas of childhood imagination. But there was something else, a quality I could not name. They were present, yet not present, like smoke caught between dimensions. I could feel my pulse in my ears. My son continued to play, oblivious to the gathering figures. I thought for a moment that I could call out, run to him, grab him, but something froze me in place. A cold, undeniable certainty settled over me. This was no ordinary trick-or-treating crowd. The children approached the basket. The traditional offering glimmered in the last rays of the sun, and for a moment, I thought perhaps I had gotten lucky. But then the candy wrappers glinted, bright and gaudy, and I saw their faces shift. Subtle at first, then unmistakable. Their eyes, where glimpses of light revealed them, reflected a deep, knowing disapproval. I realized too late that my decision had been a breach. The candy had corrupted the ritual, and whatever protective magic the town preserved had been violated. I watched in frozen horror as the first of them, closer, larger, undeniably more present than the rest, reached towards my son. I screamed. I ran, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest as I tried to reach him. But my hands passed through the shadows and cold air, empty as if he had already left this world. My son looked up at me, wrench swinging from his belt, laughter frozen on his lips. His eyes, those familiar brown eyes, met mine, and for a moment, recognition flickered there. And then he changed. His small form shimmered, outlines blurred like smoke over fire. His jumpsuit glimmered, boots bright and scuffed, but there was a ghostly luminescence to him now. Another spectral child extended a hand, and my son took it without hesitation. He did not cry. He did not struggle. He simply walked into their procession. I ran forward, shouting his name. He turned once. A flash of that same mischievous grin had disappeared into the gathering shadows. The candy wrappers fluttered around the front step, lifeless and mocking, as if the modern treats themselves were laughing at my failure. I collapsed onto the porch, chest heaving, every sound in the yard amplified. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the echo of tiny footsteps fading into the night. The next morning, Black Hallow went about its business as if nothing had happened. The communal farm's fences were mended, the animals fed, the crops inspected. Neighbors passed in their usual rhythm, nodding politely, exchanging words about weather and harvest. There was no sympathy, no inquiry. No one spoke of the child that had been taken. I tried to ask, but found no one willing to acknowledge the event. It was as if speaking of it would make it real in a different way. Mrs. Calloway visited later that day, eyes clouded with sorrow. She did not offer comfort. She only said softly, "Some of us stay to watch them once a year. It is all we have left of those we have lost." Her words were not cruel, they were factual. Black Hallow survives because it obeys its own rules, and for those who break them, silence is the only response. The town does not grieve the loss because it cannot afford to, and in that silence I understood the depth of my mistake, the permanence of what had occurred. I stayed in Black Hallow. I had no choice. Leaving would be a denial of what I had caused, and perhaps even inviting a worse fate. When the next Halloween approached, I prepared carefully. The basket was filled only with bread, oats, and dried fruit, placed precisely on the front step well before sundown. From my window, I watched the familiar mist gather. The spectral children emerged, gliding as they had the previous year, and among them, unmistakable, was my son. His mechanic uniform shone faintly, his tiny wrench swinging at his side. He moved as part of the group, silent, polite, aware, and yet distant, as though he remembered his life but no longer belonged to it. For a moment our eyes met. For a moment I saw the boy who had run through my house, laughed at my jokes, and climbed the apple trees. Then he was gone, swallowed by the shadows, leaving only the faint shimmer of his uniform behind. Every year since, I watch. Every year, I leave the offering correctly. Every year, I glimpse him, and I'm reminded of what I lost, and what I must endure. A life in Black Hallow, tethered to a single moment of memory. Warning to anyone who reads this. If you read nothing else, hear this. Do not break the rules of Black Hallow. 1. Bread, oats, dried fruit only. Anything modern, candy, chocolate, wrappers, anything from the contemporary world, contaminates the ritual, It is poison. 2. Place the basket on the front step, not the porch, not the mailbox, not the driveway. The children know. They will notice. 3. Timing is sacred. Before sundown, any delay risks everything. 4. Do not assume kindness or love will protect you. Intentions are meaningless. The ritual is not about morality, it is about obedience. Break these rules and a child will be taken. Forever. They will walk among the Samhain children. Silent, polite. A reflection of the child you once knew. You may glimpse them once a year. For a moment. Perhaps less. And you will be left with the horror of their absence. The unbearable memory of their costume. The smile on their face. The echo of a laugh you will never hear again. Do not dismiss Black Hallow as quaint. It is patient. It is unforgiving. It is eternal. And if you disobey, it will claim what you hold most dear. This is not folklore. This is not legend. This is truth. If you break the rules, you will understand loss in a way that cannot be undone. Do not forget. Do not disobey. End of report.
This report submitted by the Fogwood Files. Another account pulled from the fog and preserved in the records. If you'd like the next story to find its way to you, be sure to like and subscribe so you'll be here when the next fire is lit. Until then, stay close to the firelight, because in the woods, you're never truly alone, and something is always waiting just beyond the glow.